chaka chuka chuka boom chaka chuka chuka doom papa wapa wapa tapa tippa tippa tippa. Dippa 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 doo. My name's Mishki. Hoo hoo. Hoo hoo. Hoo hoo. Uno, dos, tres. I'm going to talk about gambling. Gambling. We've been gambling in this world as long as there have been people around. Evidence of gambling has been found in Mesopotamia, thousands of years BC. And I'm going to talk about horses today. Beautiful horses running at full speed. They've been around millions of years. Millions of years. I'm going to tell a story with the help of a gentleman named Mark Paul. His nickname is Miami. Gamblers often have nicknames. Fortune Freddy, Jack of Diamonds, 20% Tim. My guy's name is Miami because he used to dress like Don Johnson in Miami Vice. He liked the ponies, this fella. Maybe liked them a little too much. We'll see. I'm holding a book in my hand. The title is The Greatest Gambling Story Ever Told. And there's a name below that title, Mark Paul. He's waiting in the wings. I want to tell this story in 2 large chunks, so I want to gamble here and get the first break over with early, so I can relax and a story can unfold. I hope you understand. Maybe I should make the ads all about gambling. Yes, that's good. Bear with me, people. Bear with me. Listen up, you risk takers, you high rollers, you people who know a good bet when you see one. Are you still treating your financial future like a trip to the penny slots? Just tossing in a few bucks and hoping for the best? When it comes to real money, you need more than luck. You need a pro. You need Josh Arnold. For over 40 years, Josh has been the man. He's not some rookie dealing cards. He's a seasoned expert who's seen every market swing, every trend, every bluff. Josh Arnold is so confident he can help you stack the odds in your favor, he's offering you something free, a 48-minute consultation, 48 minutes of his expertise, no cost. That's not a gamble. That's a guaranteed win for you. Call 952-925-5608.
Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC, a security and investment advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. Tommy Mishki is a paid endorser.
Are you tired of the lousy odds out there? Tired of rolling snake eyes when you're looking for a dependable ride? The real sure bet has been around since 1963, and it ain't in Vegas. It's Fury Motors. Buying a car can feel like a game of chance, but at Fury, they stack the deck in your favor. We're talking a full house of quality brands here. Are you looking to go all in on a Chrysler, Dodge, or Jeep? Then get your candy carcass over to Fury Motors in South St. Paul or Stillwater. Maybe you've got a hot tip on a Ford. We'll place your chips on Fury in Waconia. You say you're chasing that Buick or GMC jackpot? Don't fold. Drive out to Fury in Forest Lake. They're not playing 3-card Monty with a price tag. They're offering a square deal every single time. Stop pressing your luck everywhere else. The smart money has always been on Fury Motors. Your winning streak starts now. And I welcome to the show now Mark Paul, author of The Greatest Gambling Story Ever Told. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Tommy. I'm glad to be here.
Let's go to you at 15 or 16 when you get into horse racing. What's going on then?
The first time I walked into the track, it was like, oh my God, how long has this place been here? I was 1,000% addicted instantaneously. The most beautiful thoroughbreds in the world, colorful silks, beautiful women dressed up in hot outfits and hats, and it's really exciting. It was like, oh my God, we can bet on this race too? When you bet on a horse, even if you're betting $2 to win on a horse, it's really like for that 1 or 2 minutes of the race, it's like you own an interest in the horse.
Why do they call it the sport of kings? Obviously, they called it that many, many years ago, but was it an elite world always?
It attracts every social economic level of people in the world will go to the racetrack every day. You could go, to England and go to Royal Ascot, and it is literally the sport of kings. The kings have their own stables and horses, and the wealthiest people in the world are there watching their horses and their animals compete. We just had the Breeders' Cup last weekend here in Del Mar in San Diego, California. The wealthiest people on the planet flew in 150 horses from Japan and all over Europe and New York and Florida. It's those people. But also, if you go into the grandstand, the racetrack is full of people that literally are probably on welfare and they're betting, $10 they probably don't have. But the racetrack has all of that in one place every single day. So it's a sport of kings, but it's also the sport of everybody.
You meet at that same age, 15, 16, you meet your buddy Dino.
Dino took me there. He liked gambling and he loved horse racing, and he got me there. And then that was it. We were hooked. And you actually had to be 21 to go to the track. We would sneak in on our own all of the time. We would actually wear coats and ties, carry like small briefcases so that we would look older.
Dino is the real, almost a prodigy. He seemed to have the knack at that young age when it came to approaching things like gambling and the horse track that a guy several years older than him would have.
Dino is my best friend and absolutely the brains of the operation. When you think of gamblers, you think of people probably more like me, kind of extroverted and loud and gregarious and like to party, and all those vices are mine, to be sure. Dino and I were the odd couple. Dino was analytical. He would study all of the past performances of the horses. He would know the times of the horses. He would be comparing the time of this horse that we liked with another horse who might be running in New York the next day. He would stay up to 3 o'clock in the morning. He was like they call him quants now, highly technical analysis guy, but he was brilliant at gambling.
I have not heard that term before, quant. He's a quant.
Quantitative analysis. They're computer nerds. Dino was a computer nerd before computers existed.
You become buddies with a guy who really takes you deep into this world, that it's not just about that horse looks pretty cool, or I like the jockey there, or I like the colors, or I'm just going to wing it, I like the name of this one. You were taken into the depths of analysis.
Absolutely. Dino knew everything that was going on. I would drive to the Daily Racing Form office downtown, and we would buy for him an entire year's worth of past results. And he would comb through it hour after hour, trying to figure out which trainers were best at sprints, which trainers were best running on the grass, what trainers could get a horse, maybe the horse hadn't raced for 6 months, which trainers were good at that, which post positions. If you were breaking at a mile, did you want to be on the inside or the outside? He would analyze everything like this.
And would you see that? Would you actually watch that pay off? Would you see that because he does this, he wins more than if he didn't do this?
No question. Horse racing is like poker in one way. If you bet a casino game, you're betting against the house, and they always, always have an edge. However, horse racing is like poker. The poker players are all sitting around betting against each other, right? Some of the players are going to win all the money, and most of them are going to lose all their money. Horse racing's like that too, because it's pari-mutuel. So you're not betting against the track. You just have to be better than the other horse players that you're betting against. And back then, especially, half of them were betting on their mother's birth dates and their lucky numbers. And Dino wasn't like that, man. Dino and I would go to Vegas and we would bet the horses sometimes. And I would get distracted and want to go over and bet blackjack or something. And Dino would never make a blackjack bet. He's, no, that's a sucker's bet because the casino has an edge.
Wasn't there, in fact, a time when you failed to hang out with Dino, got bored, went over to the blackjack table, and consequently cost yourself $13,000 because he won that on a horse?
We were on a losing streak at the track. I leave to go get a drink. I play blackjack or something. I come back and he's counting out $13,000 in $100 bills because he crushed a 23-to-1 shot in an exacta. And I left him alone and then said, that's it. Whatever Dino's doing at the track, I'm doing at the track.
Now, to put this in some kind of perspective, you still were somebody who the best bet you ever had payoff was maybe $5,000.
Yes. I was a pretty successful commercial real estate broker, so it's not like a 15-year-old betting. Problem is, 87, 88, interest rates soared to prime rate was 16%. When you're a commercial real estate broker, I was rock bottom. I was really hurting.
Well, let's go to that 87, 88 period. Someone is going to spot a horse named Winning Colors.
We were watching a replay of a race. It was all fillies. At the time, she was only 2 years old. 2-year-old fillies are usually a lot smaller. They're not built like a 5-year-old male stallion or something. They're usually little 700-800-pound animals. And we see this huge filly, and she's gray, so she stands out, getting into the gate against these other smaller fillies. And the gate opens. It was amazing. In 10 strides, she's in front by 4 lengths, blazing fast. And she's just cruising like we've hardly ever seen. She wins for fun. And Dino says to me, who's that horse? And he finds out her name is Winning Colors. And her first race had actually been in New York. And he says to me, she's trained by Wayne Lucas. He's stabled here in California. Let's follow this horse. And sure enough, a couple of months later, she shows up on the entries at Santa Anita. And we were loaded for bear, dying for this big filly to run. And we loaded up on her. And sure enough, she gets in the gate. She's in California now. And the same thing. It isn't like she just breaks slowly and plods around and then closes. She breaks like a damn rocket ship out of the gate, opens up, puts them away, wins for fun by 6 lengths. And we were hooked. Now Dino really gets into it. He starts analyzing her times, saying, wow, this filly who's only 2 years old, or not, now she was just turned 3. She's 3 years old. She's running as fast as the 5-year-old male stakes horses. You just don't see that.
Typically, your great horses are not female. People tend to overlook the grandeur, the spectacle, the glory of a great female horse because the fillies just aren't as impressive when it comes to speed.
It's true. For instance, like human athletes, fillies race only against fillies, just the way girls play sports against girls because the men are faster. But there was something interesting here. We talked about, the sport of kings. This horse was owned by Eugene Klein, who was the owner of a pro football team, the San Diego Chargers. And so he was a very wealthy guy, a billionaire. He had his own airplane and everything. And Dino and I actually saw him being interviewed after Winning Colors won 2 races. And they said, Mr. Klein, if you could win the Super Bowl because you own an NFL team, or you could win the Kentucky Derby, which would you take? He said, oh my God, that's an easy one. At the time there was 26 football teams. He says, one of us old guys wins every year. But in thoroughbred racing, 40,000 thoroughbreds are born every year. And people don't know this, but you can only run once in the Kentucky Derby, only when you're 3 years old. There's never been a repeat winner of the Kentucky Derby. You can only run when you're 3. And then we heard an unusual thing. Talk about Dino being really smart. We also read in the paper that Mr. Klein, who owned the horse and owned the San Diego Chargers, had recently had his second heart attack. And Dino says to me over a strong margarita one night, he says, I wonder if Mr. Klein might just enter this filly, the female, against the colts, against the boys in the Kentucky Derby. Let's see if we could get some money down on that.
You are guys who look at horses and think bets. You see this horse and dollar signs appear. The trick is getting the right odds so we can really hit it big. And what you have to do is start projecting out quite a bit.
It's not uncommon when horses first start. Young horses only race shorter distances. They only race around one turn. But as they mature, they start racing. Instead of racing 3/4 of a mile, they run a mile, then a mile and 1/16, a mile and 1/8, and then Derby distance is a mile and 1/4. He said to me, let's see what happens when she goes around 2 turns. If she can relax a little and still be good at 2 turns, then I'll be interested. And yeah, sure enough, when she finally stretched out and won easily again, that's when he went crazy on me. And a lot of people may not know this, but nowadays, actually, sports betting has become legal in most places, and people have gotten a lot more sophisticated and knowledgeable about bets. But even back then, there was a thing called the future book. We just had the Dodgers won the World Series last Saturday night. Well, you can bet already today on who's going to win the 2026 World Series. Now you can bet on the Dodgers or any other team you want in the league, and you'll get much bigger odds than probably the day of the, when the game goes off. But if your team isn't in the World Series, you lose all your money. Well, if you can imagine with horses, you can bet 6 months ahead of time on who's going to win the Kentucky Derby. So then he calls me up. I'll never forget. I was a little hungover on a Saturday morning, and he calls me at like 6 a.m. He says, wake up. I just found out that Winning Colors in Tijuana, Mexico, her odds to win 1988 Kentucky Derby are 50 to 1. 50 to 1. Pick me up. I go, oh, you're crazy, man. I'm going to drive to Tijuana. Yeah, you're going to get every dollar you have. Find it, get together, pick me up in an hour. These odds won't last. We got to get there. He's my best friend. And so I had to get the car and figure out how to get him there and drive him down to Tijuana. We go to Tijuana, and have you ever been there, Tommy, to Tijuana?
I never have. I can only imagine after reading your book what that world would be like. I'm not sure I'd find it terribly appealing.
It's crazy. It's like lawlessness, prostitution, drinking, just a wild, wild world. And so I'm driving down with Dino. Remember, this is 1988, so the money's a lot of inflation since then, but Dino tells me to bring at least $2,500 to bet on her. So I did. And I wasn't making any money. It was probably all the money, all the cash I had. I probably shouldn't have done it. We drove down there, and the two of us bet $5,000 in Tijuana at 50 to 1, which would pay us back $250,000.
$250,000 in 1988 would be well over $500,000 today, right around $600,000. That's a lot of money, but it needs to be said that from 1875 until when you guys were betting, there had only been 30-some fillies ever entered in the Kentucky Derby, let alone won it. Only a couple ever won it. It's not a race for fillies. It's not a race for entering a filly. It's certainly not a race where fillies win. There is some reason for the 50 to 1. It's not a mindless set of odds. We don't know at all at this point that this horse will ever appear in the Kentucky Derby. And we learn when she loses a race in one of the qualifying stakes races, there's reason to believe she won't ever be entered.
Oh, absolutely. Right after we made the bet, she runs a race against another female champion, and she loses. And we thought, well, that was probably $5,000 we'll never see again.
Yeah, because you got to be saying to yourself, she just lost against another filly, and in the Kentucky Derby, she's probably going to be going up against all colts. What are we doing here? Maybe this 50-1 was there for a reason. Now, you've spent money that, to me, seems like a significant amount of money. It seems a little weird that you're doing it. I'm still trying to figure out why you did it. I don't look at you at that time as this was money you had just laying around doing nothing.
I was dying out there at the time. Imagine being a real estate broker when the prime rate is 16%. There's no deals going on.
So one of two things is happening here. Either it's so much fun and there's such a thrill involved, and Dino has been so fun to follow as a gambling mind, as a guy who looks at all this, that you can't pull away, even though it's probably not wise at this time to be spending this kind of money for such a long shot. Or you did something just dumb and decided, screw it, I'm going to do it, but it's dumb and I'll regret this.
It's true, but Dino was also, I think he fell in love with the horse. I think he also fell in love with the numbers. Like, he was telling me, he would explain to me, she ran today in a stakes race at Santa Anita, and I checked her time, and she ran faster than the 5-year-old males did 2 hours later in the stakes race. He was saying that this 3-year-old filly, who's basically, when you're turning just 3, it's kind of like maybe being a college athlete against a pro athlete. They're good, but they're not even remotely fully mature. He was telling me that this 3-year-old filly was running faster and could beat the older males now. He believed. He never wavered. I did, but he never did.
It should be noted that there was something unique about the build of this horse. It physically was built different, like it wasn't entirely female.
She was big as she advanced, and she had to race against the colts in order to qualify for the Kentucky Derby. So they entered her in the Santa Anita Derby, which is all males, and her. A lot of these journalists didn't really do their homework, and Dino and I were seeing articles about, this little filly has no chance against the bigger colts. And Dino was laughing. Little filly, she weighs 200 pounds more than any damn colt in the Santa Anita Derby. She was going to have to beat the colts in a race before the Derby, even to qualify, even to get into the Derby.
Prior to the Santa Anita Derby was when she had that loss to a filly, and when you guys found yourself dejected and saying, we may have made a big mistake here. And then when Santa Anita comes along, it's a startlingly dramatic exclamation point on the skills of this horse.
She goes in against the colts. These are the best colts in all the West Coast. This is her first real test. And she was also kind of demonic. Gary Stevens, her jockey, had a saying, the safest place to be when you're around Winning Colors is on her back. Because she would bite the handlers, she would kick the hell out of anybody near her, and she would even bite the other horses. She was fiercely competitive. So they finally put her in the Santa Anita Derby against colts for the first time. She breaks. She doesn't just break. She just goes all out from the second the gates open.
Winning Colors came away beautifully and goes straight to the lead, joined by Mi Preferido.
She opens up by like 3.5, by 5.5. She's pulling away. She's running away for them. And everybody's thinking she can't keep going. She's going to quit. She's going to get tired.
They've passed the 7/8 pole and Winning Colors. Gary Stevens just given her a long rein there, not asking her, but she's bounding along, leading at 1.5 lengths.
And turning for home, she opens up and she wins the race by 9 lengths.
They passed the half-mile pole. Gary Stevens takes a peep behind on Winning Colors. She's still going along comfortably, leading it by 2 1/4. Racing in second is Mi Preferido, then All the Power. They've passed the 3/8 pole and Winning Colors still doing it effortlessly out on the lead. Winning Colors opens up to lead by 4.5. Lively One making no impression as they turn for home. And it's the filly Winning Colors turning in an absolutely outstanding performance. We looking at one exceptional filly who'll be carrying the hopes of California all the way to the Kentucky Derby. What a winner that one was. Winning Colors.
Just kicks their ass. And now the whole world, the whole horse racing world is going, who in the hell is this filly that just beat the boys?
Every memory care center talks about safety and talks about structure. They promise a gentle slide for your loved one. At the Wellshire Memory Care Center in Medina and Bloomington, they recognize that the greatest comfort isn't some locked door. It's the sense that the person they are has not been filed away. Think of it this way. When a person lives with a cognitive change, it's like sailing on a familiar sea where the old stars just aren't shining anymore. Most centers out there try to bring the ship back to port. Not at the Wellshire. They hire a new navigator. Their staff at the Wellshire is not made up of just caregivers. They're trained specialists in personal rediscovery. They're fluent in the language of joy, even when words fail. They design days around what your loved one can do, not what they've lost. They're navigating a new chapter. This is the fundamental difference. The Wellshire believes a rich, full, and active life doesn't end at a memory care center. It just changes course. The Wellshire Memory Care Center, Medina and Bloomington. The Twin Cities climate is a constant negotiation. We face the extremes, the Arctic vacuum of January, the punishing humidity of August. MSP, Minneapolis-St. Paul Plumbing, Heating, and Air, they understand your life isn't defined by the temperature outside. It's defined by the absolute sanctuary within your four walls. Your home is a perfectly calibrated planet with MSP. They're not just repairmen, they're climate engineers. They manage your personal atmosphere. They govern the water that flows safely. They command the heat that holds back the deep freeze. They control the air that allows you to breathe easier, regardless of the season's rage. For over a century now, since 1918, MSP has been mastering these quiet, invisible forces, because the greatest comfort is not noticing the weather at all. When the forces of Minnesota move against you, you need more than a technician. You need the masters. MSP, Minneapolis-St. Paul Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Your world perfectly controlled. So there's a couple things going on, parallel stories. One story is this filly that you and Dino have spotted earlier and have been following and have been enamored with, and that is proving to be all you thought and hoped. There's a second thing going on. In the world of horse racing, a filly dominating like this is such an unusual story that women fans of horse racing are getting into this storyline, the idea of a female beating all the boys. And that day in Santa Anita, there's this weird scene that you perhaps have never encountered in your life at a racetrack. There's this dominant female audience cheering on this horse. It's like the women of the country into horse racing have decided this is their girl.
It was amazing. There were young women and young girls, so many women, and they had brought big placards of the posters of the, go girl, beat the boys. And when she opened up in the Santa Anita Derby, you've heard young girls scream at a rock concert. It was like that. And it was like, what the hell? We've never seen anything like that. There was a lot of male chauvinism in horse racing. There still is.
The race at Santa Anita had you guys absolutely 100% back that you had made the right decision driving to Tijuana with $2,500 each and making a bet there that potentially could win you $250,000. Now, you learn of another guy who has gone all in. He hasn't bet 2,500. You learn of a guy who spotted this horse early on and has bet 20 grand at 50 to 1 odds.
Yeah, we hear about this guy. You know, at the racetrack, it's a bunch of characters. The guys like Dino and I that were there all the time, we knew just about all the other big gamblers and who was a player. And there was this guy named Big Bernie. Big Bernie was 380 pounds. If I'm wrong, he was 400 pounds. Larger than life guy. And he was a big bettor, and he hit balls, let me tell you. And he heard about Winning Colors too. And independently, we learned that he bet 20 grand on her. So he can win $1 million if Winning Colors wins. So we kind of team up with Big Bernie at this point.
You're excited about the possibility of Winning Colors getting to the Kentucky Derby, but it's fascinating the other things that you looked at that helped you believe this could happen. Somehow it mattered that the owner of Winning Colors was old and had a couple of heart attacks. Why?
Well, because his dream, billionaires like to get what they want. His dream was to win the Kentucky Derby. Here he is, I don't know, maybe, late 60s, early 70s, 2 heart attacks. We thought he's going to enter this filly and try to realize his dream. The horse was also trained by D. Wayne Lucas, who just finally actually died last year. He drove a Rolls Royce. He had a helicopter, private jets. He was incredibly successful. But he did something that most other trainers wouldn't do. He would fly fillies, females, all across the country for big stakes races and compete against boys. So Eugene Klein, the owner who owned the Chargers and owned Winning Colors, had the trainer. You needed to have the right horse, the right owner, and the right trainer, or none of this could ever have happened.
So after Santa Anita, it's looking good for Winning Colors to race in the Kentucky Derby first Saturday in May. But in that period, your excitement gets dampened a bit as you learn that you guys have placed a bet not only outside the United States, not only in Mexico, but at a track run by a Mexican drug cartel. You could have gone to Vegas, wouldn't have been the great odds that you got in Tijuana, but you would have been dealing with a more legitimate operation. You learn that there's every reason to believe this drug cartel running this track in Tijuana isn't going to let anybody leave with $250,000 on the off chance someone wins that $250,000. The heartbreaking news that you learned was that this cartel had recently killed a journalist who had been investigating them, and that the people arrested for the murder,
the owner of the racetrack's personal bodyguard and the head of security for the racetrack were arrested for the suspected murder of a journalist who was writing negative stories about the owner of the racetrack. Holy crap. One of these guys at the track comes up to us and said, I heard about your bet. You realize you guys are never going to live to collect the money. That racetrack's owned by the Felix Arellano drug cartel. If you win, you think they're going to pay you down there? They're not going to pay you. Or maybe they'll pay you and you're going to get robbed in the parking lot, or the second you leave the parking lot. You're never going to get to the U.S. border alive with $250,000 for us and now $1 million for Big Bernie. And we go, oh my, we had no idea. We researched this and we are able to verify it. As a matter of fact, for your listeners, if you watched the great show Narcos on Netflix, Narcos Mexico, in the final season, it's all the number one cartel guy who's the governor of all of Mexico and running the cartels is the father of the owner of this racetrack in Tijuana. He's a real guy. People ask me why I didn't write the book for 30 years after the event happened. And a lot of it's because I'm still scared to death of the owner of that racetrack.
That's a reasonable fear. What these guys are capable of and their reach, that would be a reasonable fear. The thing you tell yourself to calm yourself down is, relax, I probably won't win anyway, so let's forget about that. It's not an issue if I don't win, so quit thinking about it. And the Kentucky Derby arrives, and sure enough, Winning Colors is going to be in this race. Again, since 1875, only 34 fillies have entered the race. Only 2 have won. And she is going to go up against how many colts?
16 of the best colts in the world, including the 2-year-old champion from the previous season.
This is the part that was really startling to me. Who Winning Colors is up against? It's like a Super Bowl with 16 Super Bowl caliber teams playing. It's not like some top horses and some bums. There was an argument to be made for every one of those horses winning it. Every one of them.
Yeah, and I think that actual field is still the best Kentucky Derby field that was ever assembled. I really believe that. We were saying if she's lucky enough to beat the 16 best colts in the world, we have to collect, with Big Birdie there now, $1,250,000 in cash. How do we do that? How do we try to get that money out of Tijuana? And we came up with the crazy idea that the best time if she wins to collect the money will be the day of the Derby, because they'll have thousands of people at the racetrack betting on the race. They'll be watching it, of course, from Mexico, watching the race 3,000 miles away. But we figured, are they really going to shoot us or kidnap us or kill us with thousands of spectators surrounding us, witnesses? No, we're going to go and we're going to watch the race there. So it wasn't even like the 3 of us were watching the race on a big screen TV at a sports bar. We were actually standing in a crazy-ass racetrack in Tijuana, surrounded by a bunch of drunks. And we're watching it on, it was supposed to be a color TV, but I don't think it was. I think it was black and white. This little TV, knowing that the next 2 minutes could change our life, not just financially, but that if she was to win, we would actually then have to deal with trying to collect $1,250,000 from the Felix Arellano drug cartel in Tijuana.
It made sense to me that you guys wanted to be there versus taking a trip to Kentucky or going to some lovely place with a giant big screen and a martini. The idea of wanting to collect right after should Winning Colors win, that makes sense to me. So I was with you when I was reading that part of the book. I thought, okay, this is wise. At the Kentucky Derby, there were 135,000 people gathered. It's difficult sometimes for people who don't understand anything about horse racing to realize how popular these races are. 135,000 people are watching this just at the racetrack. There's not a football game bringing those numbers. And again, they're watching the most extraordinary field of champions race against one another. You could make a case for each one of them being capable of winning that day. But there's something else going on here. Even though you're far away and in Tijuana, you're picking up something watching your horse, Winning Colors. Just like you picked up something prior to the Santa Anita win when she lost to that other filly and left you guys dejected, wondering if this was such a smart bet. You saw something that day, too. There are things you see prior to a race that either leave you worried or enthusiastic. That race prior to Santa Anita, you got worried watching her. Your gal was agitated. She seemed uncomfortable. She seemed nervous. Something wasn't right that day. Watching in Tijuana, you saw everything you wanted to see. You saw calm, almost a resolve. You could pick up something just watching that horse before the race.
You're right. First of all, you might think watching a horse race with 17 horses and a little TV in Tijuana might be hard to know where your horse was. No, not with this filly. Remember, she was the biggest horse in the race, and she's great. She's almost white, a gray-white horse. We really said this. I said this to Dino. I said, God, let 2 things happen for us. This is all we ask for. We don't ask that she has to win. We just said, we made this bet 6 months or 5 months ago, the bet of a lifetime. And I said, number one, God, please just let her get in the gate. let us have a chance for this big score. And we also had fallen in love with her. It isn't just money. It's not like you're betting on, the number 8 at a crap table. It's not like that. We had fallen in love with this filly. She had stolen our hearts. We've been watching her for 5 months. So we said, God, 2 things. Please, let her actually get into the race, qualify for the race. Let her get into that starting gate. And God, when the gates open, she always goes to the front. Let her break well. We were scared to death that she would get in the gates would open, and maybe she would stumble that day. And maybe she wouldn't get to the lead, and she'd be behind 15 other horses. And I have goosebumps on my arms right now when I'm telling it.
And they're off.
She breaks perfectly.
There goes the Roan filly, Winning Colors, grabbing the lead right from the start.
She doesn't stay back. When she breaks, she goes to the front, hell-bent for leather, breaks like a bat out of hell, and she starts pulling the ground with her hooves, and within about 50 yards, she's 3.5 lengths in front.
They go to the far turn, and it's still Winning Colors showing the way after the half in 46 and 4, and 3/4 went 1:11 and 2, and no one has challenged her yet. Along the inside, Proper Reality.
So there's this big pack of all these thundering male horses and this beautiful gray filly all alone in front. And there's 2 turns in the race. The thing I learned about her, she was a better athlete than the colts. They could all run fast in the straight line, but what she could do better than any of them is when she was on the turn, she didn't lose an ounce of speed. She opens up on them. She gets to be like 4.5 lengths in front by the end of the first turn, and she's going down the backstretch. And we're going crazy.
Fifth as they come to the top of the stretch. She's led from the start. Every pole a winning one. And it's Winning Colors showing the way as they straighten away in the lane. Winning Colors doing it just like Keeway Lucas said she would. Taking command and drawing off. Now she's in front by 3. Proper Reality a second. Here comes 49er 2.
But she's going really too fast. We can see that she's going too fast. She can't last. She's going to get tired. And she goes barreling down the backstretch. She's in front by 3.5. She goes into the far turn, turning into home. And she opens up on him. She goes from 3 legs, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5 legs. She's in front. She opens up like she's going to run away. She turns for home. She's in front by 5. And we're screaming. We're going crazy. And I'm telling you, Tommy, from 3,000 miles away on a little teeny TV in Tijuana, Dino and I saw at the same moment. She got tired. She just wasn't striding out quite the same way. She was still giving everything she had with her heart, but she was tiring. And then we could see the 2-year-old champion, 49er, another horse in the race, makes a move, and he starts coming at her and coming, and she's digging in on the rail. I think she might have scraped her left side against the rail. She was like staggering, so tired. And he starts coming at her and coming, and the wire's coming, and she was done. He was going to go blowing by her.
Here comes 49er on the outside. Lucas and Stevens. It's a driving finish. 49er on the outside.
But I think he made a big mistake. The jockey, if he would have kept 49er out on the right side in the middle of the racetrack, she wouldn't have seen him or felt him or heard him. Would have gone right by her. But he tried to intimidate her. I think he was a little chauvinistic, like he wanted to lean his colt against this filly. And she felt him, she heard him, and at the last second, she just dug in. She wins by like a head. And we just go crazy.
Winning Colors by a head. It was 49er on the outside, coming from far back at the head of the stretch to narrow the gap and lose it by only a half length. But Winning Colors, who defeated the boys in the Santa Anita Derby by grabbing the lead and never looking back. Winning Colors.
It was a photo finish. It was an extraordinary race to watch because, as you say, it unfolded in this storybook way where she does what she does best, getting way out in front. the book on so many of these horses. No, don't do that. Don't go full out from the get-go. You don't want to do that. These other horses are saving a little bit and you're not. This was such an unusual horse that there really wasn't an ability to hold back. One thing that I was struck by watching the race was her jockey is a legendary jockey. What was the jockey's name?
Gary Stevens.
You see some of these other horses being hit over and over again with a riding crop. You don't see that with Winning Colors.
She had an exercise rider in the morning who would ride her literally every single day of her life. He would exercise her. And he told Gary Stevens, the jockey, he says, Gary, you don't have to use the whip. She'll give you every ounce she has without it. She'll give you everything she has.
Think about your money. It should have velocity. It should be moving forward, building momentum, helping you capture every opportunity. So why does it feel like you're constantly fighting friction, hidden fees at your bank, endless hold times when you call, decisions seemingly made by algorithms 3 states away? Every obstacle at your bank is friction. Every delay is a loss of momentum. At North American Banking Company here in the Twin Cities, they recognize your financial life is not a transaction, it's a system in motion. They're built to eliminate the friction. That's right, at North American Banking Company, they eliminate the friction. They don't need permission from a corporate headquarters to support local business owners, to approve a family mortgage. The decision makers live here, work here. They see your success as part of their success. They offer the stability and technology of a big bank, but with the touch, the human touch of a local team. Because when you remove the friction, your money moves faster, your decisions are quicker, your life accelerates, it's easier. If your current bank is causing drag, it's time to move to a place built for velocity. North American Banking Company, 6 convenient Twin Cities locations.
North American Banking Company, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
At Spectacle Shop, they believe your eyewear should not be an accessory. It should be the headline when people look at you. At Spectacle Shop, they don't carry the usual suspects. They curate eyewear. They find frames that make your face unforgettable. The readers of the Star Tribune have noticed. They've voted Spectacle Shop best eyewear shop in Minnesota the last 5 years in a row. Why? Because Spectacle Shop understands it's fun to see, but it's also fun to be seen. More vintage eyewear frames than anyone else in North America. Designer frames no one else has. They deal in the rare and they deal in the distinct. The frames that necessitate an introduction. If your current eyewear demands an apology, it's time for an upgrade. Come to one of the 4 Twin Cities locations. Stop apologizing for your look. Start generating attention. Spectacle Shop. Your face deserves a better story.
Winning Colors by a head. It was 49er on the outside, coming from far back at the head of the stretch to narrow the gap and lose it by only a half length. But Winning Colors, who defeated the boys in the Santa Anita Derby by grabbing the lead and never looking back. Winning Colors, coming from
maybe a few minutes of ecstasy for you guys, followed by what seemed like a pensive moment as it hit you too that while this dream had come to fruition, you are at a place run by a drug cartel, and somebody now has to go about the business of talking to what are in essence drug cartel employees about handing over money they don't want to hand over, and one could argue they don't have to hand over.
I'd even gotten to know a cocktail waitress there who was friendly because we were always buying beers, tipping her well. And she actually whispered in my ear, she said, "Be careful. They know who you are." It sent a shiver through me. I'm this, gringo commercial real estate broker from Los Angeles. What do you mean the frickin' drug cartel knows who I am? It scared the shit out of me. When we were there 5 months earlier at that racetrack, they remembered that Big Bernie put 20 grand on her. And they remembered that we put 5 grand on her. So they knew we had $1,250,000 worth of tickets on us.
The be careful from the cocktail waitress, I'm going to read that as, be careful thinking you can have this money. Be careful trying to get this money. Be careful leaving here. Be careful driving to the border. There's a lot one can read into that.
Yeah, I know. And then we waited for it to settle down a little. I'm sitting there, just sweat pouring off of me and pouring off of Dino and Big Bernie. We went up and took tickets up to cash them. And when they saw the tickets and the, magnitude of the money they would have to pay us, they told us, no es posible, in broken English. It's not possible we can pay today. To come back. And I'm yelling at him like, come back. Oh, you mean like on Tuesday? This is Saturday, of course, when the Derby's won. I'll come back like on Tuesday at 2:00 when nobody's freaking here. And then you can rob us, right? Without witnesses. No. And Dino, it's funny. I'm 6'3", 220. Dino's very much smaller man, but he gets really agitated. He's getting right up in his face. He's going, God damn it. It says right here, $5,000 to win the Kentucky Derby, winning colors, 50-1. We gave you our money. Pay me now. And the guy's getting upset. He waves over a couple of guards. These guards, I was more afraid of the guards than anybody else. They actually carry these like M16s over their shoulder. They don't look like policemen, let's just say that. And Dino's getting upset. Big Bernie's causing a scene. The guards are watching us. And now they're telling us that they won't pay us. And then I'm thinking, maybe the reason they don't want to pay us is it would be better to just get us in like a hallway or something and just steal the tickets from us. Then they'd never have to pay at all. And so I told Dino and Big Bernie to follow me. And we literally started running down the steps. And I could hear not far behind us the heavy boots of the guards coming down after us. It was really scary.
You were picking up a lot of stuff. It wasn't walk away, it was run, accompanied by the sound of the guards coming after you. It's not come back another day. It's let's prevent this from ever being another day by getting these guys right now and getting these tickets from them. And you guys find your car in that parking lot and tear out of there at an insane speed, driving over the curb as though your life is on the line or those tickets are going to be taken from you. They have our tickets we can't collect. And you beeline north for that border like you might not make it. And there's this harrowing moment in the book there where I find myself thinking, what are we looking at here? What do these guards have in mind? What have they been instructed to do? Where is this going? The weird thing about Mexico is you just don't know. There are about 5 different possibilities, and you don't know which one we're looking at here. Things are in flux, and there's a lawlessness, and there's a sense of impulsiveness to things. So anyway, you get across the border and you get back to the United States, but without your money. And there's just this sense of this magical day. What is this day now? What do we call this day? You're back in the United States without your money. And you've clearly been face to face with cartel people, and this clearly is not something you can expect to ever go smoothly. Were you dejected? Were you happy to be alive? Were you saying, why the hell did we ever bet in Tijuana? What was happening once you were across the border and back in the States?
I can tell you with Dino, there was only one feeling, which was total anger. He was furious. Dino's a funny guy. Gamblers are funny guys. There's a gambling code. A gambler's code is you always pay your gambling debts. You just pay. Dino must have screamed at me 50 times. They broke the code. They broke the code. They took our money. We made a bet. We won. These guys broke the code. And he was really, really upset. I was trying to be a little bit calm because my girlfriend was crying and telling me, don't go back. It's not worth it. It's not worth getting killed over money. There was a sense of dejection, but it was actually a sense more of anger. even more than fear.
There is no way in hell I'm going back there if I'm you. I'm with your girlfriend. The idea of going back, it's not even a close call for me. That's where I'm at. I just think life is lovely if you're able to breathe, and less so when you're not. I get Dino's rage, and I also understand he's in the right. I do not get his logic thinking, I know what I'll do. I'll bring some muscle with me. I'll find some fighters who I can hire to go with me, and we'll go back. You said the guards are holding M16s. I do not understand this idea that a couple of tough guys are going to improve your chances. I found that logic to be terribly flawed. Maybe I'm wrong, but he comes up with the idea and tells you, let's bring some muscle. I know some guys, martial arts experts, and we'll bring them with us, and we'll go back. Again, you're going off this idea that they said to you, not today, come back a different day. How soon is it that you go back?
We waited till a Tuesday to go back.
So it's Saturday when you leave there. Tuesday you go back, and there is this absolutely entertaining part of the book where the muscle shows up. These are the hired guys who are going to aid you in your attempt to go back and get this money. The tallest of the three might have been 5'5". Otherwise, you're looking at 5'3", 5'2". This is who's supposed to intimidate the Mexican drug cartel. We're almost in comic country here.
Well, Dino told me he knew these guys. Said, yeah, I know these professional fighters. And they were professional fighters. I didn't realize when he told me that they were professional fighters. I don't think he knew either that they were professional Asian fighters. I'm thinking they're going to be like 280 pounds each with scars on their face. I could have put all three of the guys in my trunk.
One of the guys gets a little bit put off by your attitude and says something to you about, hey, you want to see how tough I am? I'll take you right now. And clearly the three guys think they're plenty tough, but they are the ones who end up accompanying you. They are the hired hands who will be hopefully helpful in you going back and getting this money. When you're all heading back to Mexico, heading back to Tijuana, the 4-hour trip, what's going through your mind there? You must have had many different scenarios dancing in your head.
Young and dumb, we were 31. We needed money. We felt we were in the right. In retrospect, I wouldn't have gone back.
What I read in the book is, no, you don't think it's smart to go back there, but your buddy is going back. Dino is going back. There is nothing stopping him, and you owe it to him to go with him. That's how I read it.
That's absolutely true. Dino was the brains of the operation, but it was my job, certainly as his best friend. I was bigger and physical, and I always felt protective of my smaller friend. And there's no way that I was going to let him go on his own. And he would have gone. There's no way he wasn't going back. This was like his proudest moment. I know it sounds crazy, but...
When you get back to the racetrack, is it empty?
Yes.
It's empty. God, I tell you something, I'm not walking into that world. You were protected by those numbers on that Saturday previous. They did matter. That was the wise way to operate. Keep all those people around. But there you are back. Do you think they expected you to show? Was the sense when you arrived that you were expected?
Yes. When we showed up, I should have mentioned too that Big Bernie did not bring his tickets. We were only cashing the $5,000 worth of tickets, not the $20,000 tickets. So we were only collecting $250 that day. They immediately pointed to just Dino and I, said, you two come with us. And they immediately separated us from the three Asian fighters that were our bodyguards and Big Bernie. And they took us, and within seconds, we were going down like dark, huge steps into a very dark, cavernous, like underground. Felt like a prison. And we actually saw some holding cells there that were empty. And then we went down one more floor. They bring us down, and they put us in this smoke-filled room. We walk in, And this room has like one light bulb hanging from the center of the ceiling. And there's like cigar smoke everywhere. There's this one big desk and this like El Comandante guy, uniform with epaulets on his shoulders. And he's smoking a cigar and he motions us to sit down. And that was really scary. Dino was brilliant. Later, he told me he made it up on the spot. He didn't tell me this ahead of time. He says to the cartel guy, he says, before we came down, we talked to the LA Times. We took photocopies of our tickets. We told them exactly where we're going, when we're getting here. And if we're not back home tonight, if we don't call the reporter, you're going to be on the front page of the LA Times, front page of the San Diego newspaper, and front page of Tijuana. They'll know that you've kidnapped and held two American gamblers who made a bet on the winning colors, the Philly. And if we're not home, you're going to be featured in the covers of every newspaper. And the guy, it sunk into him. And he says, I'll be back. I don't know who he called. I assume he called his boss, tells us to just stay. And he leaves. I love cigars. And the guy was smoking a really good cigar. And I don't know, I didn't want to show fear of this guy. We waited like 5-10 minutes, and finally I saw he had this like open humidor with all these beautiful cigars. So I went around and I sat down in his chair and I cut open a cigar and I lit up one of his cigars. And there's this funny moment in it because Dino looks at me and he says, don't smoke those things. They're bad for you. We're 3 floors underground in a Mexican cartel prison, and you're worried about my smoking habits?
I will say you are now in the bowels of this operation where it is not looking good, and it's not looking like you should have gone back. I will say Dino's story, thinking like that, quick on his feet, brilliant. You should have actually sat down and come up with that story beforehand. The fact that he didn't have a story going in is what really surprised me, but brilliant that he came up with that on the spot. Your behavior looks like you're trying to piss him off a little more.
My instinct was just, he's going to do what he's going to do. Just don't give him the benefit of showing fear. It just didn't make sense to me to do that.
There is this period in the book where the minutes go by like hours. What happens?
He comes back and he says, we never want to see you here again. He says, follow me, and he takes us back upstairs to the cages. He tells the teller in the cage, pay them. And Dino says, we'd like this in $20 bills. If you've never seen $250,000 in $20 bills, it's a large volume of money. It's actually about 8 medium-sized backpacks full of money. So we started stuffing our backpacks full of $20 bills, and he like escorted us to our car. We threw the money in the car, and we headed the hell out of there. But at that point, that's when I think I was the most afraid. I always had a sense that if they were going to do something to us, it would be in the parking lot, or there'd be a roadblock right when we left the parking lot. Or also a really scary time is if you've ever crossed the border in a car, there actually can be like a mile and a half wait, even though there's 12, 13 lanes. You're just stuck. So there's cars in front of you and cars behind you and cars to the side. It's not like you can hit the throttle and I'm going to get out of this place. If they want to come up and shoot you in the car, there's nothing you're going to be able to do. So we left the racetrack. I was flying out of there, yelling to Dino, you look to the right, look behind, tell me, is anybody following us? Is anybody following us? Of all the time, that's the time I was the most scared. Maybe because I could sense that we were, a mile and a half from the border now in safety, and we had the money. She'd won the race. But we were still a long way from being safe.
You have to look at what has happened here. A guy you have met with clearly didn't expect you to say whatever you said, because if they knew you were coming back, there should have been no reason for him to go make a call. He should have known exactly what the plan was. something changed the plan. All of a sudden, a call had to be made. There is some sense that there was a pivot, that an audible was called here, and it would make perfect sense that the audible was, okay, the LA Times knows they're coming here. We're going to do what we said we'd do. Give them the money, let them get away from here. Now we're in the clear. We did what we said we'd do, and they could create any scenario between that racetrack and the border, and I would have expected them to. I would have expected something to happen, something that would have gotten that money back to the racetrack. Again, we're talking about, in today's money, about $600,000, and a cartel that did not have to follow the rules. So I would have been at 80% certainty something was going to happen between that racetrack and the border. You make it across the border, and I can only think what I'd be thinking. Arriving in California with that money, I think I would have had the same sensation someone would have had who was expecting to be executed and the guns backfire or the rope breaks. There just would have been this sense of relief that would be very difficult for me to overemphasize. Did you feel that?
I did. I felt a little empty inside. Like, I didn't realize how fearful we were. We were maybe hiding behind our own bravado, or maybe our actions stopped us from thinking. But I was really spent. I was really, really spent for many, many days.
It had been one wild ride, start to finish, over those 5 or 6 months, and the last part of it was so disturbing in so many ways that I think there would have been a need for some time to process all that. You talk about emptying $125,000, which was your take, onto your bed, was it, when you got home?
Yeah, I just dumped it on the bed.
I can feel that desire to see the end result of all of this. I mean, on one level, you just want to pat the two of you on the back and say, great job. But because it ends up being this cartel story too, there's just this murky sensation at the end of, God, you guys, playing with fire isn't even the right term. And the bravado did seem to go a little far there, and in that basement I expected many other things to happen than what did happen. I don't know what on earth your Asian friends thought coming back.
We were also a little afraid maybe they would rob us. They were kind of sketchy too. There's a great saying, I forget who the quote is from. The saying is, an adventure is seldom enjoyable during the adventure. Big Bernie was smarter than all of us. What Big Bernie did is he hired a Mexican attorney who knew racetrack and gambling. And the attorney said that you realize that they had a really huge sports gambling operation at the time. U.S. gamblers would go down and they would deposit hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maybe, a lot of guys would deposit $2,000, but big players would deposit hundreds of thousands of dollars at the racetrack sportsbook department. Then they would have a phone number and they would call in and make their bets, their sports bets. And what he did is he had his money, instead of getting it in cash, he had it transferred into a sports gambling account at the track. And the track thought, oh, this is great. He'll probably lose half of it back to us in the first year, right? He's a big gambler. He doesn't want his cash. He wants to keep gambling. He kept it there. And then after some time, I don't know how many months or year or more, he started transferring it out to a Mexican bank. He kept it in Mexico. And then he wound up buying a hotel in Mexico.
You did something that, to me, had a sort of catharsis feeling to it after all was said and done. You guys decided you wanted to meet this horse. And this makes perfect sense to me. You spoke earlier in great detail about your fondness for this horse and how it had grown and how you cared about it. And the horse is the reason that all of this has happened. This horse comes along and appears in your life one day. You watch it race and you see something extraordinary, and you get ideas that more extraordinary things could come. You want to meet this horse. How long afterward do you guys do that?
9 months later, we knew that where she was stable, and we were able to get somebody to take us back and go see her.
So when you stood there, in her presence, the vibe I get would be almost the vibe of meeting a movie star. There in flesh is this thing that had just been on a screen up till now.
That's a perfect analogy. It was like that. She was bigger than life. She wasn't just four-legged. She had been the center of a year of our life, maybe most intense moments in our life. And even today, 35 years later, I remember it, get emotional, especially of her winning the race. She was beautiful.
The filly Winning Colours turning in an absolutely outstanding performance. We're looking at one exceptional filly. What a winner that one was. Winning Colours.
The greatest gambling story ever told.
Thank you, Tommy. And there's a really good book website, which is markpaulauthor.com.
markpaulauthor.com.
There is a photo gallery, and you can actually see the real photographs from that time and pictures of Winning Colours, etc. So I thank you very much, Tommy.
Very much appreciated. All the best going forward.
Thank you, Tommy.
Bye-bye.